Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Sarasvata Deve Gauravani Vacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Vshatyadesha Tarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, chapter 12, Mohini Murti bewilders Lord Shiva, text number 9. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace. There's no purport, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, pесен 8, глава 12, текст 9. Tvam Brahma Kechit Avayantyuta Dharmam Meke
Tvam Brahma Kechit Avayantyuta Dharmam Meke
Eke Parang Sarasatok Purushang Paresham
Eke Parang Sarasatok Purushang Paresham
Anye Vayanti Navashakti Yutam Parang Tvam
Anye Vayanti Navashakti Yutam Parang Tvam
Kechin Mahapurushang Avyayam Atmatantram
Kechin Mahapurushang Avyayam Atmatantram
Tvam Brahma Kechit Avayantyuta Dharmam Eke
Tvam Brahma Kechit Avayantyuta Dharmam Eke
Eke Parang Sarasatok Purushang Paresham
Eke Parang Sarasatok Purushang Paresham
Anye Vayanti Navashakti Yutam Parang Tvam
Anye Vayanti Navashakti Yutam Parang Tvam
Kechin Mahapurusham Avyayam Atmatantram
Kechin Mahapurusham Avyayam Atmatantram
Tvam Brahma Kechid Avayantyuta Dharmam Eke
Tvam Brahma Kechid Avayantyuta Dharmam Eke
Eke Parang Sarasatok Purushang Paresham
Eke Parang Sarasatok Purushang Paresham
Anye Vayanti Navashakti Yutam Parang Tvam
Anye Vayanti Navashakti Yutam Parang Tvam
Kechin Mahapurusham Avyayam Atmatantram
Kechin Mahapurusham Avyayam Atmatantram
Tvam You Brahma, the supreme truth, the absolute truth, Brahman. Kechid, some people, namely the group of Mayavadis known as the Vedantists. Avayanti, consider. Uta, certainly. Dharmam, religion. Eke, some others. Param, transcendental. Sat asato, to both cause and effect. Purusham, the supreme person. Paresham, the supreme controller. Anye,
Anye,
others.
others.
Avayanti,
Avayanti,
describe.
describe.
Navashakti Yutam,
Navashakti Yutam,
endowed with 9 potencies.
endowed with 9 potencies.
Надарен с 9 енергии.
Надарен с 9 енергии.
Param,
Param,
transcendental.
transcendental.
Трансцендентален.
Tvam, unto you.
Unto you,
На теб.
Kechit,
Kechit,
some.
some.
Mahapurusham,
Mahapurusham,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Върховната божествена личност.
Върховната божествена личност.
Avyayam,
Avyayam,
without loss of energy.
without loss of energy.
Без загуба на енергия.
Без загуба на енергия.
Atmatantram,
Atmatantram,
supremely independent.
supremely independent.
Върховно независим.
Върховно независим.
Shiva is continuing to glorify the Lord in the form of Mohini Murti.
Продължаваме
Or not
да
yet, but-
формата на Махамудхи.
Those who are known as the impersonalist Vedantists regard you as the impersonal Brahman.
Тези, които са известни като имперсоналните ведантисти, те считат за имперсоналния браман.
Others, known as the Mimamsaka philosophers, regard you as religion.
Други, известни като мимамсака философи, те смятат за религия.
The Sankhya philosophers regard you as the transcendental person who is beyond Prakriti and Purusha and who is the controller of even the demigods.
Санхя философите те смятат за трансцендентален човек, който е отвъд Пракрити и Пуруша и който е контролера дори на полубоговете.
And the followers of the codes of devotional service known as the Pancharatras regard you as being endowed with 9 different potencies.
Последователите на кода на преданото служене, известно като Панчаратра, те се считат за надарен с 9 различни енергии.
And the Patanjala philosophers, the followers of Patanjala Muni, regard you as the supreme independent personality of Godhead who has no equal or superior.
И Патанджали философите, последователите на Патанджали Муни, те смятат за върховната независима божествена личност, която няма равен или по-висши от нея.
So, we will continue with some Mayavadi bashing.
Продължим с
You know what bashing is? You must have a good word. Well, we continue with the same subject matter.
Продължаваме с същата тема.
Let's see whether we will be able to do that. So, yes, let's see what I want to do here. So we have heard yesterday, well, maybe somebody can very briefly summarize the philosophy of Mayavada just in 2 or 3 sentences. We don't, it's possible to do that.
Може би някой да е обобщил философията на Майявадите, може би с някакво изречение двете.
So, I'm looking this way. Not this way. Any volunteer?
Добър
Or
влад.
you can combine. He memorized everything. That's not acceptable. No? So what's the first idea?
Коя е първата идея?
What is the supreme?
Кой е върховен?
The impersonal Brahman, right? That's the idea, that's the absolute truth.
Абсолютната истина, безличностния браман.
So, Sarva Kalvidam Brahma, everything is Brahman, and everything is one.
Всичко е едно.
Now, the problem is, we see so many varieties.
Проблемът е, че виждаме толкова много различни разнообразни неща.
And you and me and so many other people
Аз,
and animals and trees and birds and bees and so many different manifestations. So if everything is one, how can that be explained?
толкова различни хора, животни, различни неща и как така, ако всичко е едно, има толкова много различни неща.
So everybody should be able to answer that question. What's the idea? How do you explain that?
Как можем да обясним това?
It appears, which means
Изглежда.
it's something appears.
It's an illusion. It's not
No.
on lower level.
No. First of all, it appears as if, which means, he appears to be a nice guy. But in reality, we know who he is. So it appears to be so many varieties, but in reality,
It's not.
it's not. So that means it is what?
It's illusion.
Illusion, right. So this is basically the Mayavadi philosophy. Well, and did I forget anything? No. That's how they explain everything. So we will read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 7, which this part describes the talk between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares.
В тази част се говори за разговора между Бог Чайтания и саньяси от Бенарес.
Yes. The leader was Prakashananda Saraswati, very famous philosopher, and they had been criticizing the Lord.
Основният участник е Пракашананда Сарасвати, който всъщност критикувал.
Because he was seen dancing and chanting in the streets.
Защото са го видели да танцува и да пее на улицата.
And apparently, because he had taken sannyas from Keshavarti, he was considered an Ekadandi sannyasi, which normally is a Mayavadi sannyasi. Eka, not three, not four, one. Everything is one. That's the symbol.
И се разсмятат като Майавади саньяси.
Приема саньяс от Кешева Бхарати,
Yeah.
който е Майавади саньяс, и те носят една банда Ека.
So they felt like actually he's one of us,
И
right?
сещат, че той е един от нас.
But he's not behaving as one should behave, so they started to criticize.
Но той не се е държал както трябва. Затова започнаха да го критикуват.
And so the devotees became very much disturbed and they approached the Lord and he was very helpful. I don't care.
И преданите били много притеснени, питали Бога, но той казал, не ме интересува.
But finally there was some arrangement made so they would meet.
Накрая уредили така, че да се срещнат.
And when Lord Chaitanya appeared, actually the Mayavadi sannyasis, they became very much impressed by his presence.
Когато Бог Чайтания се появил, майварите се така много се впечатлили от неговото излъчване.
So finally they invited him to speak.
Край го поканили да говори.
So then he began to explain how actually the philosophy they were following, based on Shankaracharya's explanations, is wrong.
Той обяснил как философията, която те следвали, е погрешна.
So he says, this is verse number 121. In his Vedanta Sutra, Srila Vyasadeva has described that everything is but a transformation of the energy of the Lord.
В своята Веданта Сутра Шрила Вясадева описва как всичко е единствено и само трансформация на енергията на Бога.
Shankaracharya, however, has misled the world by commenting that Vyasadeva was mistaken.
Шанкарачаря обаче е подвел света, като коментира, че Вясадева е сгрешил.
And thus he raised great opposition to theism throughout the entire world.
И по този начин той е създал голяма опозиция към религията в целия свят.
So we'll read part of the, because it's a long purport, and if somebody really wants to know about this whole subject matter, read this part. There's very long purports explaining everything in detail.
Това е доста дълъг коментар. Ще да го прочете целия. Сега ще прочетем част от него.
Okay, purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, in the Vedanta Sutra of Srila Vyasadeva, it is definitely stated that all cosmic manifestations result from transformations of various energies of the Lord.
Шрила Бхактивинода Тхакур обяснява. В Веданта сутрата на Шрила Вясадева определено се твърди, че всички космични проявления водят изначално от трансформацията на различните енергии на Бога.
Shankaracharya, however, not accepting the energy of the Lord, thinks that it is the Lord who is transformed.
Шанкарачаря обаче не приема енергията на Бога и мисли, че Богът е този, който се трансформира.
He has taken many clear statements from the Vedic literature and twisted them to try to prove that if the Lord or the Absolute Truth were transformed, his oneness would be disturbed.
Той взема много ясни твърдения от ведическата литература и ги изопачава, за да се опита да докаже, че ако Богът или абсолютната истина се трансформират, неговото единство ще се наруши.
Yes, he has accused Srila Vyasadeva of being mistaken.
Той обвинява Шрила Вясадева, че греши.
In developing his philosophy of monism, therefore, he has established Vivartavada, or the Mayavadi theory of illusion.
Развивайки своята философия на монизма, поради тази причина той създава Вивартавада или Майавади теорията за илюзията.
So, Vaishnava explanation of the variety we see is based on this conception that the Supreme Absolute Truth has multi-energies.
Цяло това се базира на концепцията, че върховната божествена личност има много енергии.
Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shruyate, that comes also from Upanishad, that the Lord possesses so many different energies. Now, Shankaracharya, he thinks there's no energies, there's only Brahman, and if we think that this is a transformation of Brahman, this is not possible. Because Brahman is non-dual. So but there are varieties, so that's the problem. We have non-duality Brahman at the same time a variety, so the only explanation is it's illusory. They don't really exist. Because only Brahman exists. That's basically my philosophy. You understand? Yes.
Но това е на практика моя философия, че Браман е едно и че няма дуализъм.
So everybody got that? That's very important. Huh? We all understand. This is therefore in 2 sentences you can explain. Everything is one, but we see the variety. Because the one cannot be transformed, it's non-dual. Therefore, this variety must be illusory. That's all. So now we will continue, just to get this idea how devious this philosophy is. We'll continue with the explanation of the sannyasi from the Vedanta Society in New York. Yeah, because he was challenged. You remember, in the yesterday I said that somebody said, so how do we, because we see, it's a fact, some of these Mayavadis, maybe not everybody, they sometimes worship Krishna. They sing about Krishna. We have prominent so-called kirtaniyas who chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and some devotees even go there. They also chant with him. So that's happening.
Майавадите, да, виждаме ги понякога, обожават Кришна, мантруват, виждаме ги също киртан, но как точно така се случва това?
So although they are chanting the name of Krishna, they don't accept that actually I'm chanting about the Supreme Lord whose name is Krishna.
Въпреки че възпяват имената на Кришна, те реално не смятат, че възпяват върховната божествена личност.
They basically think I'm actually chanting to myself.
Те на практика смятат, ами аз пея на себе си.
Yes. So therefore the accusation was, this is absurd. This is duplicititious. It's insincere. It's cheating.
Обвинението е, че това е измама, не честно, не истина.
Huh? Yeah.
Лицемерие, да.
Yeah. So then the first, now he has to defend this. He says, first of all, yeah, you're right. This is the traditional view, but I can give you the key for a different view.
Сега той казва, да, прав си, това е традиционното виждане, но сега се дава друго различно виждане.
So then we have these two-level idea.
Имаме тези две нива на идеята.
So, and the conclusion is that the reality of non-duality, that Brahman is only one, does not contradict the experience of duality. Or even multi-ality. And it's not just dual, it's like multi-energies and multi-manifestations.
Заключението, че единството не противоречи на дуализма на Брахман.
So then he said, well, somebody still may argue that yes, of course, for some people who are not very advanced, and that's actually their explanation, they may take to this apparent worship, which is not real, but it will help them. And then finally they come to the non-dual complete experience, and then this whole will disappear. The ladder going to the roof, once you're on the roof, you kick the ladder.
Има твърдение, че все пак това ще им помогне, тъй като те възпяват имената на Бога и като стигнат догоре, ще изрите стълбата.
So, well, let's first of all, therefore I said, very devious. Actually, it's Asuric philosophy. How they explain this, how can you worship yourself? You know.
Сега ще видим как те обясняват как точно обожават себе си.
So, here I am Brahman, and I appear as a body and a mind, as an individual.
И аз съм напред изглеждам като цялото умо, като човек индивидуална личност.
And then you have, well, we don't have here, the other Brahman, God, Krishna or Rama or Kali or whoever, and they appear as the worshipped personality.
И тук имаме Бога или Кришна или Кали, Брахман, който е там и влиза там като наличността, която се обожава.
So there is Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman.
Ниргуна Брахман и Саргуна Брахман.
You know, you're laughing. What does it mean? What is Nirguna Brahman? What is Saguna Brahman?
Чист Браман и такъв, който е объркан, замърсен.
So what did he say?
It's a pure Brahman and contaminated.
Nice try. No, if you know a little bit of Sanskrit, you should. It's important to understand. What does guna mean?
Качество.
Huh? Quality. So near is negation. Without quality, and sa guna is with a lot of qualities.
Без качество и с качество.
So, now comes the thing. So the absolute is Nirguna Brahman. Brahman beyond attributes.
Абсолютната истина е Ниргуна Брахман. Отвъд всичко.
then they will say, no words can describe it, no activities, no qualities. Yeah, it's just nirguna. It's inconceivably, actually, therefore, actually void is also accepted. It's another angle of Mayavada philosophy. Everything is nothing.
Че това наистина може да се опише с никакви думи, че друг клон на Майавади философията, че всичко е нищо.
So God is Saguna Brahman.
Богът е Saguna Brahman.
He is Brahman with a mask of attributes.
Brahman с маска на различни атрибути.
Yeah, with a name.
С име.
With a form.
Форма.
Rama, Krishna. That's Saguna Brahman.
Това е Saguna Brahman.
But the name is illusory. It's Maya.
Но името е илюзорно. Това е
The form is also Maya.
Формата също е Мая.
So if you remove the name and the form,
И ако премахнете името и формата,
because you are also having a mask, you think I'm an individual person, I'm this and I'm that. So this is also Maya.
защото и вие също сте с маска и
It's all clear. There are two Saguna Brahmans together. The God Saguna Brahman and me Saguna Brahman. We're having our masks on.
имаме си маските.
Yes, and therefore I'm worshipping that, and he's accepting the worship.
И обожаваме го, той го приема.
Now you take off the masks of both.
Махаме маските на двете.
No more forms, no more names, no more. It's one.
Няма форми, няма имена, всичко е едно.
So, but as long as you wear that particular mask, and God wears his mask,
Но ако стига да носим нашата маска и ако Богът носи своята маска,
then your relation is worshipper and worshipped.
тогава връзката ви е обожение чрез обожението.
But you know all the time it's actually one reality.
Но през цялото време знам, че е една реалност.
You almost cry, huh? This makes you cry. Now he is such a rascal. He says, now the question may arise, this kind of worship, it is harmful or useful?
И той е такъв негодник и пита след това тази връзка хубава ли е лоша? Полезна ли е или не?
Yes, it is useful.
Да, полезна.
It's good.
Добре.
A non-dualist can worship. There's no problem, no harm.
Не, дуалистите могат да обожават, няма проблем.
But it's not necessary.
Но не е необходимо.
It's actually for the, those who are not so advanced. So therefore, real non-duality can very well coexist with the appearance of duality.
Затова истинската недуалност може да съществува наред с единството.
And if you think that this was bad, now worse will come. So then he says, and if you just think about it, we'll see. So he says, let us see some practical examples of persons that we consider, the non-dualists, the Vedanta philosophers, we think they are enlightened.
Нека да видим няколко примера на недуалисти, които си мислим, че са напреднали.
For example, Shankaracharya,
Например, Шанкарачаря,
which is the main philosopher of Advaita philosophy.
основният философ на Адвайта философията.
How many hymns he has written about Krishna and Shiva,
Колко химни е написал за Кришна и за Шива.
or to the Divine Mother,
Или за Божествената майка.
even to Mother Ganga.
Дори за майка Грен.
So many dualistic hymns full of devotion and fervor.
Толкова дуалистични химнове, пълни с преданост.
Was he being duplicitous or insincere or cheating?
Дали е бил лицемерен или лъгал?
So, no. He does not see any contradiction.
Той не вижда никакво противоречие.
And now there come other examples. Ramana Rishi, for example, another impersonalist.
Брамана Риши.
No, Ramana Rishi. He was, and Nisargadatta, another one, he was doing bhajan all his life. In the evening, he would sing bhajans, devotional songs in the temple.
Пева баджани в храма, песни.
And this Ramana Rishi, he was a great non-dualist, but he had a devotion for Shiva all his life.
И Рамана Риши, той не е дуалист, но е имал склонност към Шива през цялото.
And he saw no contradiction at all.
Не вижда никакво противоречие.
I am one with Shiva, and I have also devotion and love for Shiva.
Аз съм една с Шива и едновременно с това имам изпитвам любов и преданост към него.
He wrote a poem in Madhurya Bhava. The relation as a lover of Shiva. The highest stage of dualistic worship. And of course we have Ramakrishna. He is a follower of Rama. It's his param guru. Yeah. So, because he was worshipping Kali, the great mother, so some people considered him a dualist. And Vivekananda said about him that people see me as a jnani, right? Outside, but inside I'm a bhakta. And Ramakrishna, he was a bhakta outside, but inside he was a jnani. There is a beautiful saying by a great Advaita philosopher. That before enlightenment, duality puts you into a delusion. Because it traps you in this body and mind, and you think that this is the self. But after enlightenment, a duality imagined for the sake of love, bhakti, is more beautiful than non-duality. You get it? Unbelievable, huh? You understand? Yes, I have to repeat it. It's so inconceivable. But after enlightenment, because you now think I'm I and the God is there, the mass, all these things maybe. So that is before enlightenment. After enlightenment, you still continue to imagine duality. Actually, your enlightenment means it's non-dual, everything is one, I am one, Brahma, I'm Brahman, you are Brahman, we are all Brahman. But even then, after enlightenment, we continue to imagine duality. For the sake of love or bhakti. Because it's more beautiful than non-duality. And why would you imagine a duality? If you think this is bad, now worse comes. It's possible, huh? This is the last stage of Asuric. So why would you imagine duality? For the sake of love, bhakti. You are sugar. But you imagine yourself to be separate from sugar. Why? To taste sugar. Then you know your own sweetness. That is bhakti based on Advaita.
That bhakti is an expression of non-duality.
Това е израз на недуализма.
So, this is what they think.
Което те мислят.
And therefore I mean, this is very dangerous, such a dangerous philosophy.
Толкова опасна философия.
And you don't know who is who. They're chanting the holy name.
Не
They're
знаем
doing
кой е.
puja they can do everything the devotee does, but the mentality is completely different.
Не знаем кой е. Те правят пуджа, обаче начинът на мислене е тотално различен.
So actually, now if you think about it, the beginning challenge holds.
И ако се замислите за това, в началото всичко е наред.
It's insincere. It's hypocrisy. It's cheating.
Това не е истина, то е лицемерно.
You're supposed to be an Advaita philosopher. But yes, we don't worship a god. We are all one. It's all one. And then in the beginning he tried to explain that this is a lower stage, just so actually then he said at one point, there are few people who can go straight to Brahman. So if you cannot go straight to Brahman, then you have to maybe for some time do this dualistic worship, but with the understanding that it's actually not true, just to get to that point.
И ако не можем да отидем директно до Браман, трябва да правим тези дуалистични действия, които всъщност трябва да знаем, че не са истински, но все пак нали биха помогнали.
But then he gives examples of enlightened personalities. The greatest they have, Ramana Rishi and Ramakrishna and all the others, and they do it their whole life. So it's not a stage to get to the ultimate. They're already at the ultimate. They go back just to taste sweetness. Rascals. Their sweetness. Well, now this is interesting. You said, well, their sweetness. Is there a difference? Yes or no? Think about it. I'm not now the non-dualist conception, because that's actually what it's all about. Anandamayo Vyasat. We want to taste sweetness. Everybody. Even if it becomes perverted by some circumstance and apparently somebody likes to taste bitter or sour. It's just a perverted reflection of the same impetus.
Ако това е така различна концепция, различно усещане, някои хора искат да усещат и горчиво, и кисело, и така нататък, но това е пак същото нещо.
Yeah, like hate is the other side of love.
Омразата, която е другата страна.
So, if we say sweetness, we talk about love. So they cannot avoid it. This is practically it's proof. You cannot, even if you try to be impersonal, you really, because it's against your nature. So therefore, Vaishnava philosophers describe the impersonal philosophy as hellish. Naraka, Kaivalya Naraka. Yeah, and yes, everybody is looking for this bliss or this happiness, the sweetness. And even in Brahman realization, there is something like that, Brahmananda. But it's compared to the ecstasy or the bliss experienced by the devotee like a small drop compared to an ocean. But this so-called happiness in Brahman, from the Vaishnava point of view, is actually hellish. Why? Let's think about it.
Това щастие, Браман всъщност се описва в Вайшнава философията като адско и това ще разберем защо.
Brahman means one. There's not two.
Браман означава едно, няма две.
So you become everything, that's the idea, but then there's only one. There's nothing else.
Ставаш всичко, ставаш едно и няма нищо друго.
And I'm not sure, do they say you are conscious that you are one? What do they think?
Yes.
You're still thinking?
You're just consciousness. I'm just aware.
But then are you aware that you are aware?
Yeah.
Yeah? That's the bliss, no?
Съм сигурна дали разбират, че са едно, дали имат съзнание.
But it's like being in the desert without anybody else, just you.
Това е като си в пустинята без никой друг, само ти.
How long will you like? I mean, sometimes we want just to get away from everything, right?
Колко време ще оцелеш? Понякога имаме нужда да сме далеч от всички.
Just to be alone for something.
Да сме просто сами.
Don't see anybody, don't talk to anybody.
Да не виждаме никой, да не говорим с никой.
But after some time, how long can you do that?
След известно време, колко време може да го направим?
It's not natural just to be alone.
Не е естествено да сме сами.
Or imagine in the Black Sea or somewhere in the middle, without anybody around. Only wherever you see it's water.
Представете си, в морето сте сами, всякъде където се обявате, не виждате никой.
Maybe the first impression, short period of time, wow, fantastic.
Може би първото впечатление е, вау, това е невероятно.
Yeah, it's impressive. Everything is only water. Actually, I'm also water, but
Всичко е само
I haven't realized that yet.
и аз съм така.
No, it's artificial because naturally we want to have a relationship.
Това е нещо изкуствено, защото естественото ни природа е да искаме да имаме отношения, връзки.
And this is when he tells you, it's actually proof, that even those supposed greatest non-dualists, Mayavadis like Shankaracharya or Ramakrishna or Ramana Rishi, they engage in this type of relationship.
Всички тези философите имат именно такава връзка.
And in order to maintain this Mayavad conception, they may think that actually it's not true, but I like it.
За да поддържат тази Майавади концепция, те може да си мислят, че може би не е истина, но това им харесва.
And as we pointed out, there was a question, why would one tend to Mayavada philosophy? You don't accept really the other person, what to speak of surrendering or serving.
Погрешното в Майавади философията не приемаме другия човек, пък камо да говорим за отдаване.
And if I'm serving at all, I'm serving myself. So it's not a problem.
Служа всички, значи служа на себе си.
If it was truly a different person, that is unacceptable.
Ако наистина е някой друг човек, това не е приемливо.
Yeah, therefore when Krishna says Sarva Dharma Parityajya and Mam Ekam Sharanam, you just surrender to me, it's not Krishna. That's the Mayavada interpretation. They will read the verse and they say, yes, he says that, but it's not Krishna, it's the unborn, unmanifest inside and no.
Когато Кришна казва, просто мисълта е, майавадите казват, да, но това не е точно, Кришна не е точно така, това е някаква странна неродена форма.
Yes, manmana bhava matbhakto. You think of me, you worship me, you bow down to me. Yes, no problem, but I know actually it's myself.
Да, обожаваме, отдай ми се. Ами да, няма проблем, но това всъщност съм аз.
So we don't accept that.
Не приемаме това.
And then in order to counteract this idea of Shankaracharya that Brahman cannot have energies because otherwise it compromises its non-dual reality.
И за да се преборим с тази идея, че Браман няма различни енергии, няма дуализъм.
One point would be Brahman is transformed. That's unacceptable because it's non-dual. It cannot. If it's transformed, then it's not anymore changeless and without activity and all that. So therefore it's illusion.
Ако приемем, че Браман се трансформира, това означава, че вече нямаме дуализъм, че вече нещо съвсем различно.
And it cannot have energies because then it's not anymore non-dual.
Може да има енергия, защото това значи, че вече не е двойствено.
So Vaishnava philosophy explains that simultaneously one and different, that the supreme Brahman has multiple energies, and all these transform in all these things we see, but the supreme remains as it is, no transformation.
Вайшнава философията обяснява, че Браман има множество енергии, но те всички се трансформират в една и реално всичко е едно.
Не, те всички се трансформират, но то остава цялостен.
Но той остава цяло.
So therefore Srila Jiva Goswami said that unless one accepts the energies of the Lord, you cannot accept the conception of a God as the supreme personality of Godhead.
Обяснява, че ако не приемем, че има енергии на Брама,
Няма да разберем всъщност.
че няма да го разберем като личност.
So far, well, we're already over 9. I don't know. I hope, do we understand exactly what now to counteract, what's the differences between impersonal conception and Vaishnava conception?
Разбирате ли каква е разликата между имперсоналното?
Do we have to have a fourth installment? I don't know. Because it's so important, we should understand it very clearly.
В някакъв момент трябва да разберем доста ясно.
How it is, well, we should continue with this same subject, but of course now with a different angle. How is it and how can we really become convinced that the supreme absolute truth is a person?
Може да се убедим, че абсолютната истина, върховната абсолютна истина е личност.
And we are also persons.
Че ние също сме личности.
And it's still absolute, it's not limited. The absolute truth, being a person, is not compromised by the conception that person means it's limited, so therefore it cannot be absolute.
Все пак е абсолютна. Личност означава ограничена, това не може да бъде абсолютно.
How can it be, how can the supreme person be everywhere?
Как върховната личност може да бъде навсякъде.
If it's Brahman, that's easy to understand, like air. It can penetrate everywhere. That's understandable.
Ако е Браман, значи навсякъде може да проникне навсякъде.
Right? Sarva Kalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. Okay, I can understand that. But that means it's not personal. But we are saying no, the Supreme is actually a person. So is it more logical than Brahman or maybe not? Mayavadi philosophers will say no, it's not, doesn't make sense. It appears to, but it's really not. Which sounds like, well, it's interesting conception, right? Therefore, practically everybody accepts this philosophy in one shape or another. Even some who has maybe been a devotee may still go back to that idea and, like you told me, you're still worshipping this Krishna? You have not gone beyond? And then not only that, you know, the supreme absolute truth is a person, he's a blue guy with a flute. I mean, this is so absurd.
И дори абсолютната истина да е личност, това е някакъв син човек с флейта. Как може това да е?
And then he has all these girlfriends, you know, not even, and they're just dancing around, you know. This is supposed to be the absolute truth. Does that make sense to you? Are you so foolish?
Той си има толкова много приятелки,
Наив.
танцуват около него. Това е, нали, не може да е абсолютната истина. Това е толкова глупово.
No? Yes, you're allowed. Yeah, we get that. That's ridiculous. This idea, whole idea is ridiculous. You know, tending cows. I mean, you know,
И да се занимава с крави.
Brahma was thinking like that, you know. This is supposed to be my Lord. Look at this, you know. There he's sitting or eating some rice with some yogurt and having cows all around. I mean, this doesn't make sense.
Си мисля така, това е моя Бог, който да седи, да яде някакви сладки, някакъв
So therefore the Mayavadi sannyasis, they saw Lord Chaitanya dancing and chanting, you know. This is ridiculous, you know. Don't make yourself a fool. Come and study Vedanta.
Това е Майавадите казват. Това е глупаво, как така е. Учи тук Веданта.
So let's stop here and think about that for today until tomorrow. Is it ridiculous or is it not ridiculous? And if it's not ridiculous, why not? It sounds really ridiculous. A blue boy with a flute tending cows is the supreme absolute truth. It's ridiculous.
Да спрем до тук и утре ще си помислим дали това е наудничево или не. Някакво синьо момче с флейта да е върховният.
So, why not? Why not? Well, if you like it, you can do, but you should know. Ultimately, it's not real. It's just imagination. Yes, the key is, that's the last sentence of this guy, the key is imagined duality and real non-duality.
Следното изречение, ключите въобразен двойственост.
И истинската недвойственост.
Okay. So everybody's clear or bewildered? I hope everybody's clear, huh? Tomorrow I'm going to be the Mayavadi. You have to convince me. So, shall we stop? It's good to stop here, 9-8 again. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki